Hello, I'm Sam.
And I'm Daniel.
In this episode, we're talking about shelter. Shelter means anywhere you live or stay for long periods of time, whether that be a house, an apartment, an RV, etc.
There are multiple ways you can choose to live in a house, with the first being purchasing the house for yourself. The second is renting a house and paying a defined amount of money each month to the person who is renting the house to you. Another way is to share the house with a roommate and split the rent between the two of you.
While renting a house, you need to think about whether the amount of time you're staying in it will make the overall cost more expensive than just buying a house.
An apartment is like renting a house, except the rent is a lot cheaper and the living space is confined to a single room or a few small rooms. This can be great if it's just you or you and your partner, but if you have kids, then it can get a little crowded.
An RV is great if you love to travel, but other than that, an RV doesn't offer many benefits. It's pretty small, you have to park it where you can hook up to electricity and water, you have to empty the waste, and you can't really rearrange or easily refurnish anything.
Owning a house is probably the best and most chosen option. While it does have a large upfront cost, and all the maintenance is on you, with a house you have a number of options with what you can change. With a house that you own, you have the most opportunity to live in a place that suits you.
And now it's time to show you what experienced adults have to say about shelter.
What kind of housing did you live in the first time you moved out of your parents' house, or after college if you lived in dorms?
When I moved out of my parents' home, I didn't move out until I got married. And so I had done my first year of college while I was at home, banked up a bunch of money, which I recommend each and every one of you guys do. But when I moved out, we got a small one-bedroom apartment for a reasonable price in a decent area close to home. And it was 650 square feet. And I did most of my electronics projects on the coffee table and the dining room table.
Well, after high school, when I graduated, I moved to Portland, worked for my uncle and actually lived at his house. I lived at his house, worked for him, and did that for the whole summer. And then came out and moved in with a good friend of mine for college. We rented an apartment together. We went to two different colleges, so we kind of picked an apartment between the two.
I lived in the dorms. My freshman year of college, I went to community college so that I could save money, get my prereqs out of the way, save money with the cost of living. And so did my freshman year at home, paid my way through that, was able to buy all my books and pay for that. And then I moved up to Washington and lived in the dorms. And after I moved out of the dorms, I lived in an apartment.
How old were you at this time?
When I moved out, I was 19.
18, going on 19, close to 19.
20, I think. Mm-hmm.
What drove your decision to do this?
Why did I move out? Because I wanted to get married.
I, at the age of 16, realized that I knew everything and could do anything I wanted to do. And so I had a great relationship with my parents. I could have lived with them much, much longer, but I kind of wanted to be my own guy, move out. Good friend Eric was a great roommate. So I wanted to go work, go to school, have my own place and live my life. So be out on my own, be independent.
I think I was just ready to move on to sort of the feeling of more of adult living and be able to live independently and be able to have a kitchen and start learning some useful skills on cooking and just, have my own space.
Did you live with anyone else?
I never did live with anyone else.
Oh, my friend Eric. So a good friend from high school. We moved in together.
I did. I had a roommate. I had a number of roommates before I got married, and always other gals who lived in the area and either were going to the same college or, going to some other college, and cost of living is pricey, so it makes sense to share that cost with a roommate.
What was that like?
he was a good roommate. His mom came and cleaned our apartment often and bought SpaghettiOs. So it was a good arrangement. And he was a good friend. He was a good roommate. We got along quite well.
You learn to be pretty flexible as far as people having very different living styles than you, whether that's different types of cleanliness, different hours that they're awake. But it's good. It teaches you flexibility, and I think this is probably where maybe only children have a harder time when they go off and all of a sudden have to share space or, make room in their lives for someone else who's going to be very different than them. It's good practice for marriage, though.
Any rude awakenings that came with living on your own?
Rude awakenings with living on my own. I can't say there were. I was a bit of an odd duck. As my wife and I were planning on getting married and budgeting and all these things before we ever moved out, the amount of time we spent planning, I think really paid off. So I can't say there were any rude awakenings, but there were a few realizations of now I can do whatever I want.
Not really. No rude awakenings. There's money. You always think, oh, I can afford this rent. This rent's $1,000. So you say, all I need is $1,000 and my roommate will split that. So I only need $500. But you forget often when you leave home that your parents might have bought the internet, cable, telephone, insurance, deodorant, soap, shampoo, cleaning supplies, all those little things. When you move into your own place, you go, okay, we need to sweep this place up. We need a broom. So you got to go to Walmart or Fred Meyer's and buy a broom. And so no rude awakenings, but kind of a realization of how much life costs.
I think the rudest awakening is just when you own a home for the first time, because then all of a sudden, instead of being able to call the landlord or, the apartment manager and say, hey, my sink's backing up, or there's an issue with the toilet or whatever, then all of a sudden you're the person you call. It's on you, and no one's going to come fix it. You have to deal with it and pay for it and fix it. So.
What percentage of your budget goes towards housing costs now, including mortgage, insurance, and maintenance?
Housing costs for us are probably higher than they should be. Here, a good rule of thumb, and it's going to vary depending on who you talk to, but good rule of thumb for housing costs is about 30% of your budget or less. We went into it with quite a bit more, just because of the way the housing market was and where we were anticipating going in terms of our financial growth.
Maintenance is a tricky one. About 25% of our budget goes to mortgage insurance, garbage, sewer, water, that kind of thing. And part of that's just because we've owned our house for a long time. So my mortgage isn't that huge anymore.
Yeah, probably 25, 30%.
If you want to find out more about housing options, check out articles about which option you're thinking about and the area that you want to live in. You can even go on Zillow.com to see and compare the prices of different options in your area. Link in description below.
If you liked this video, or you think it was helpful, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more content like this. Episode 5 of this series comes out next week, and let me tell you, it's going to be a good one. Also, if there's something you think we missed or should have done differently, or do you have an idea for another topic that you think we should do in the future, then please leave a comment down below. This is Bros for Life Skills. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.